सरस्वती नमस्तं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। Let's take a sankalp. Okay, so last class we were looking at consciousness. Okay, the consciousness aspect of the nature of Atma. We said that the nature of Atma has three inherent aspects: the Sat, Chit, and Ananda or Ananta. So we were looking at the consciousness or Chit aspect of Atma. And we saw the 5 features also, right, which are really important and very important for us to memorize also. So let's quickly revise the 5 features of consciousness and then we move ahead. So the 5 features of consciousness. Firstly, consciousness is not a part, product, or property of the object or the body. Consciousness is an independent entity. It is an independent principle, but it pervades it. It is in and through the entire object, the entire body, and it also enlivens the body. So it is an independent entity, but very, very closely, very, very intimately associated to the body, and it enlivens the body. Thirdly, consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Then consciousness continues to exist. Consciousness continues to survive even after the death of the body. So bodies come and go. Okay, they are subject to arrival and departure, but consciousness, it continues to exist even with the death of the body. And after the death of the body, what happens? The consciousness is still surviving. But this surviving consciousness, it is not accessible to us. Not because the consciousness is not there, but because the medium which manifests the consciousness, the medium which reflects the consciousness, that body medium is absent. That is why the surviving consciousness is not accessible. Okay, so these are the 5 features which we have to memorize. Very important 5 features of the consciousness. So along with that, in our study, we also understood that firstly, Atma is Chaitanya Swarup, which is nothing but what we said, that consciousness is an inherent aspect, is an aspect of the inherent nature of Atma. Okay, it is a like how we had said, heat is an inherent nature of fire. Same way, Chaitanyatvam or consciousness is an inherent nature of Atma. So we say Atma is Chaitanya Swarupa. Then Atma is Swatantra. We said Atma is independent, although very closely associated, yet independent of the body. Then Atma is Nirguna. Okay, it does not have any attributes. We said it does not have any property. All the properties belong to the body. Atma is Nirguna. It is attributeless. Then it is Nitya. Nitya means eternal. It is present it exists in the past, in the present, as well as in the future. Then Atma is Sarva-Vyapi. It is all-pervading. And since Atma is Sarva-Vyapi, since it is all-pervading, we can derive this corollary that Atma is Advaita also. Right? Since it is all-pervading, there cannot be a second. Right? If there is a second, it will limit the first one. And the first will limit the second. So, Atma is Advaita. So, these are the features of Atma that we have seen so far. So, now once I have grasped that I am this consciousness principle, okay, once I have understood properly that I am the Chaitanya Swarupa, then I have to understand the other two aspects of the nature of Atma also. So then I have to understand that I am Sadrupa also. I am Ananda Rupa also. Right? So all these three words, Sat, Chit, and Ananda, they are really solid words. Okay. And if we understand these three words, we have understood the entire Vedanta. So now we have very clearly and very elaborately seen what is Chit, right? What is consciousness? What is Chaitanya? So that aspect of Atma we have seen in detail. So for now, for some time, just put this understanding of pure consciousness on the side. Okay? Park it somewhere safely in your minds, and we will move to the next aspect of Atma, that is Sadrupa. Sat. Okay? So why I'm saying just put the consciousness understanding on the side, so that you just don't get confused. Okay? Okay. So now let us look at this Sadrupa. Okay? Sat or Satyam. That is the second aspect of the nature of Atma. Sat or Satyam. Okay, Satyam means what is real, right? What is true. But when we say Atma is Sat Swarupa, we mean here Sat means something that is absolutely real. Okay, so what is meant by absolutely real? So Shastra says that absolutely real means something which is permanent. Okay, so there are two conditions for something to be absolutely real. So the first condition is that it has to be permanent. This is how Tattva Bodha defines Sat. Tattva Bodha says Sat Kim. So Kalatraye api tishthati iti Sat. So what is Satvastu? Satvastu is that which exists in all the three periods of time. Kalatraye means all the three periods of time. That is something that existed in the past also, that exists in the present also, and something that will exist in the future also. So Kalatraye api tishthati iti Sat. This is the definition of Sat, which is given by Tattva Bodha. Now, so that means that Sat is something that is permanent, okay, that is eternal. So whose reality or whose existence does not depend on anything else, okay? It does not depend even on time. The existence of Sat Vastu does not even depend on time. It transcends time also. So absolute reality means firstly permanent and secondly independent existence. Okay, so it has to be permanent and its existence should not depend on anything. It should not have a dependent existence. So suppose we take a pot, okay, a pot made out of clay, and we'll analyze that, then we'll understand this more clearly. So say we take a pot which is made of clay and we ask ourselves that, is this pot real? Okay. So it seems real to me, right? It seems real. I can see it. I can touch it. So, and also the pot is very useful also, right? It is functional. So yes, it seems real. But on inquiry, we find that even though this pot is existing right now, it was not there before, right? अभी pot है, उसके पहले it was clay, right? Some time back it was clay, but right now it is pot. Yes, but some time back it was clay, right? And same thing, the later also, maybe after 5 years, 10 years, the pot will not be there, right? So before the pot, there was clay, and after the pot breaks and it disintegrates, then also there will be clay only. So in between, for some time, we say that there is pot. But on inquiry, what do we find? That actually pot is only a name and a particular form which we have given to something called clay. So clay was, clay is, and clay will be. Right? Pot बनने से पहले भी clay था. Right? Pot बना है, when the pot is there, still clay is there only. So clay is there in the present also. Only the shape is different. We have just given it a different shape, a different name. But it is clay only. And even later, after the pot is broken, it's disintegrated, still clay will be there only. Right? So, pot is not real, but clay is real. Okay, we are relatively understanding it right now. So, pot is the effect, which is not real. Clay is the cause, that is real. Therefore, according to the scriptures, okay, whatever is temporary, that is not absolute reality. Okay, that thing is useful. Definitely, we do not question the functionality. Yes, pot is very, very useful. In fact, clay is not even that useful. But although it is functional, although it is useful, it is yet not absolute reality. Okay, what is permanent alone is real. That alone is Sat, according to the scriptures. Okay, so now we see that, okay, pot is not real, but clay is real. So pot is actually just a name and form that we give to clay. So that means pot is not real, but clay is real. Wow, okay. But when we think that clay is real, right, the reality of the pot depends on the clay. Okay, so pot has dependent reality, dependent existence. So we saw that clay is the cause, pot is the effect. So for the time being, we may think that, okay, pot is mithya, it is not satyam, it is not real, but clay is real. Now, if we do some further inquiry, we realize that the reality of this clay also, it is not independent. Clay does not independently exist on its own. The reality of the clay depends on its constituent elements, right? So the elements, whatever they are, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, whatever they are the cause and the clay is the effect, right? A combination of these constituent elements causes the clay to come into existence. So the existence of clay is actually dependent on its constituent elements. Okay, so now the pot is not real, ठीक है, हमने सोचा था clay is real. But now we are dismissing the reality of clay also, because that is also dependent on its constituent elements. So ठीक है, the clay is also not real, the constituent elements are real. But now analyze further. The reality of these constituent elements also depends on what? On their molecules. And the reality of molecules then further in this chain of cause and effect, the reality of the molecules depends on the atoms. And the reality of the atoms then depends on the subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, electrons, and so on. So you can keep going further and further, even like science has not gone beyond a certain point. So we can keep going further and further. And this chain of cause and effect, okay, which is called Karanam and Karyam. Karanam means the cause and Karyam means the effect. So this Karya Karan chain, it keeps on, it just goes on up to Maya. Maya, which is the cause or Karanam of the entire universe. Okay. And we realize that, oh my God, none of these things that I have been analyzing so far, none of these things are actually real. None of these things have independent existence. None of them have absolute reality. Right? Pot se shuru kiya tha na? So without clay, there is no pot. So pot is not real. It depends on clay for its existence. Without its constituent elements, there is no clay also. Without the molecules, without the electrons, there is no constituent elements also. So, वैसे ही we can keep on breaking down and analyze, and we'll realize that all of them have dependent reality. And none of them are permanent. None of them is Sattvastu. So for that, like in the same way, we can look at anything in this universe. Look at the table, look at the chair, look at the gold ornaments. Everything, there is no ornament without gold. It's the reality or the existence of ornament or gold ornament depends on the gold. The existence of a wooden chair depends on the wood. So there is nothing in this universe that we see which is Sattvastu, which is Satyam, which is the absolute reality. Everything has dependent existence. The existence of everything that you take in this universe depends on something. Take some fabric, for example. Okay, you see, okay, there is a shirt. But the existence of shirt depends on the fabric. The existence of that fabric, it depends on the thread. The existence of the thread depends on the fiber. The existence of the fiber again depends on the carbon, the constituent elements. So you can keep breaking it down and you realize that, oh my God, in reality, there is no dress. There is just, it is just the entire chain of cause and effect that you see. So you can keep negating every cause, every effect in that chain one by one. Ki, array, this is the effect. So it is obviously cancelled. It is not a Sattvastu. But when you see that becomes a cause, you will find that, oh, that is the effect again. जैसे हमने pot or clay में किया या fabric में किया. So that entire chain of Karya Karanam leads you to the thing that there is no Sattvastu that we see in this universe. So then the question comes that then what is absolute reality? What is the Sattvastu? So again, we'll take the pot, okay? we'll understand what is actually sattvas. So when we look at a pot, okay, we look at the pot and we say, oh, the pot is here. Okay, we say pot is. Okay, we say is, right? Pot is here. That means the pot exists, right? When we use the word is, that means the pot exists. This isness means existence, right? So whenever we use the term that pot is, or chair is, or table is, or phone is, this isness means the existence of the pot. The existence of the pot is there. Existence of the chair is there. मतलब घड़े का अस्तित्व है, कुर्सी का अस्तित्व है. Okay, the existence is there. Now, if the pot breaks, okay, if the pot breaks, that means there is no more pot. The pot no more exists. The pot broke, it does not exist anymore. That means the pot isn't real. Correct? It isn't permanent. It isn't सत्वस्तु. इतना तो हमें मालूम है, इतना हमने देखा पहले. So the pot does not exist now. The pot is broken. But what exists instead of the pot? What exists? The pieces of the pot. So pot does not exist, yes, but the pieces of the pot still exist. So pot is not there, but piece of the pot is still there. So the existence is still there. Okay? पहले pot का existence था, अभी pieces का existence है. घड़े का अस्तित्व नहीं है, पर उसके टुकड़ों का अस्तित्व तो है ना. So the existence or the isness that we say, okay, the isness is still there. Existence is still there. First, the existence was associated with the pot. Now the existence is associated with its pieces. So the object has changed, huh? But the existence is still there. Is it clear? This is quite abstract, so you will have to like really focus. If there is any doubt, you can please pause me and you can ask me, okay? Okay. So वस्तु बदल गई, पर अस्तित्व तो अभी भी है. First it was pot, now it is pieces. So existence is still there. Now, if we take one piece of that pot, okay, and we further crush it down, okay, we crush it, make it into fine clay powder. So now what happens? The piece also does not exist anymore. The isness of the piece is also gone. But instead of the piece, the clay exists. The clay powder exists, right? So we can say that, okay, pot is not there. The piece of the pot is not there, but the clay is there. So the clay is. So again, the attributive object has changed, but the existence or the isness, that is still there. सबसे पहले it was associated with the pot. Okay, pot is. उसके बाद the pot broke. So then, okay, the piece of the pot is still there. And then piece also we crushed. So piece is not there, but clay is there. So existence is there. Okay, अस्तित्व अभी भी है. And वैसे ही, if we break down the clay also to its constituent elements, like what we said, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, then we will come to know that the clay is also not there, right? Fine. It is not real. Its reality depends on these constituent elements. So clay does not exist. Okay. But the constituent elements exist. So fine, clay does not exist, but the elements still exist. मतलब elements का अस्तित्व अभी भी है. So in the same way, we can keep on breaking it down again in the same way to molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, whatever. Go as further as science can help you with. And you will realize that you can keep discarding the reality of all things. The isness of everything will get transferred to the next in the line. The isness of the pot got transferred to the isness of the piece. The isness of the piece got transferred to the isness of the clay. That got transferred to the isness of the elements. So the attributive object, okay, that will keep changing, but existence will remain constant. Isness will remain constant. Okay. So it will go on when we keep discarding the reality of all the things. The only thing that will eventually remain is pure unassociated existence. The isness, okay, the unassociated existence, the pure existence is what is the Sat aspect of the Atma. पहले क्या देख रहे थे? The isness or existence was associated to pot. Then the isness or existence was associated to the pieces, then to the clay. So that is called associated isness. Now we are going on discarding the reality of all the things one by one. We are discarding the reality of the pot. We are discarding the reality of the piece. We are discarding the reality of the clay. Finally, after discarding the reality of all these things, finally we reach pure isness, when there is no attribute, no thing associated with. There is nothing we can say that clay is or element is, okay? There is pure isness, pure existence, which is not associated with anything unreal, with anything, with any object. That is called the Sat aspect. We'll understand it. We'll look into it a little more. There is a room, okay? Now, in that room, there is a table, and on that table, a pot is kept. So now we can say that, okay, the pot is here. That means the pot has existence. Can we say that? The pot has existence. Now, you remove the pot, okay? You remove the pot, so the pot is gone. The pot is not there, but the table on which the pot was sitting, that table still has existence. The table is still here. That means the table still has existence. Hai na table ka astitva? Now you remove the table also, okay? Pot gaya, ठीक है. Table का existence था. Table भी गया, ठीक है. But room still exists. The room still has existence. Now you remove the walls, okay? You break the walls, cognitively remove the walls, okay? So you remove the walls, that means room bhi gaya. So room is also not there anymore. But the space still exists. The light still exists. Okay, so the space has existence, light has existence. Now you remove space, time, everything. Okay, yet the unmanifest or causal form of everything, which we call Maya, that still has existence. Because we said nothing can be destroyed, right? It can just go from manifest form to unmanifest form, right? Jab Karan Sharir पढ़ रहे थे, तब we had seen that, right? So when you destroy the pot, when you destroy the room, you destroy space, time, everything, it just goes into its unmanifest form. So the unmanifest or causal form of everything in this universe, which we call Maya, that is still existing, right? So you can remove everything, but then in the end, Maya will remain. And this Maya is also dependent on pure existence for its existence, right? Maya is also existing. Maya also has existence, right? So that way, like you can remove everything, yet one principle will remain, and that is the existence principle. Okay? Existence principle, which is not dependent on anything. Maya is there, right? But it is existence, it is existing. So it depends on this existence for being, right? If we say Maya is, that means it has existence. It depends on this existence. Otherwise, it would not be there, right? This is the Sattvastu, Satyam. This existence, pure existence, is the second nature, second aspect of the nature of Atma. So this Sat aspect or pure existence, okay? Sat, pure existence means unassociated, unattributive existence. We are not saying the pot is or the clay is or Maya is. We are just talking about the isness. Okay. So this pure existence, to understand it better, we can compare it to a movie screen. Okay. So this pure existence, this isness, that is the substratum. It is the adhishthanam. It is the base. But it is an all-pervading base. It is a base, like the screen, okay? In a theater, the screen is the base for all the projections, right? So anything that is projected, the movie, so whatever are the projections, they come to life only because of the screen. Agar screen nahi hoga, to projections kidhar bhi project nahi kar sakte hai, na? So they do not have an existence without the screen. Same way, this pure existence, think of it like an all-pervading screen. Okay? All-pervading movie screen. So this existence principle, it is all-pervading and it lends existence to all living and non-living things in the universe. Like the movie screen. The screen in the theater that gives existence to all the objects projected on it, no? All the living, non-living things that are projected on the screen. So, bina screen ke projection ka koi astitva hi nahi hai, right? So, if a screen is not there, it will go and project on the wall behind. So, wall becomes the screen. So, nonetheless, it requires a substratum for projection, right? So, this all-pervading screen, Sat, is what we call pure existence. So, when we experience a chair, okay, we experience the chair because it has borrowed existence from this Atma. Okay, it has borrowed existence from the pure existence principle. Just think of the movie screen, okay? Then it will get clearer. Otherwise, this is really abstract. So think of chair, okay, being projected on a movie screen. Chair हमें दिख रहा है, chair का existence हमें feel हो रहा है because there is a screen behind it, right? Same way, in reality, in our Vyavaharika world, this transactional world that is there, we see a chair because it has borrowed existence from the substratum, which is Atma, which is pure existence, The chair has only borrowed existence from this pure existence, from Atma. It does not have existence of its own. Okay? And the same is the case with every single thing in this universe. Ornaments, clothes, furniture, building, mountains, celestial bodies, everything, even our body, mind, sense complex. This entire Shariratrayam, everything has a dependent reality. Everything has a dependent existence. सब चीजों का अस्तित्व आत्मा पे डिपेंडेंट है. So they borrow existence from Atma. And since all the objects in the universe, okay, this entire anatma prapancha, the everything in this universe which is not Atma, the entire anatma prapancha, since they do not have existence on their own, they just have borrowed existence, so they are called asat. Okay, they are not satvastu, they are called asat or mithya. Mithya is another word for asat. Okay, now you have to understand this clearly, that asat or mithya, it does not mean that it is not there. Okay, it just means that the degree of reality is different. जैसे हम dream देख रहे हैं, so it's not that the dream does not exist only. Oh, come on, we see the dream. Okay, so it is there, but the degree of reality of the dream, it is much lower than the degree of reality of the transactional world that we live in. When you wake up in the morning, you can dismiss your dream. Okay, so you can dismiss this dream. Same way, all the things in the universe, however real they might feel, but they are mithya vastu. Because when you keep looking at it, inquiring into every object, you realize कि अरे actual में तो ये है ही नहीं. So the entire chain of cause and effect leads you to the understanding that everything in this universe has dependent reality, and finally everything just borrows their existence from this pure existence principle, which is Atma, which is the Sat aspect of Atma. Okay, so that is how we say that everything in this universe is anatma. It is asat. It is mithya. Okay, so asat or mithya means something that has dependent reality. Like the reality of the wave. Okay, wave हमको दिख रहा है कि अरे it is real, but the reality of the wave depends on water, depends on the ocean. अगर water नहीं है, तो wave does not have an existence. The reality of the pot depends on the clay. If clay is not there, you can't say that, okay, the clay pot is there, but there's no clay in it. It's only pot. No. It is just clay. The reality of the gold ornaments depend on gold. Swamiji gives this example that you can never ask कि अच्छा मुझे 5 ग्राम बैंगल दो और 5 ग्राम गोल्ड दो. The bangle comes along with the gold. The bangle and the gold cannot come separately, right? Because the reality of the bangle depends on the gold. Hence, everything, any object you take in this universe, you analyze it and you will realize that it has dependent reality. Hence, everything in this creation is mithya. Everything is asat, except the Atma, which alone is absolute reality, whose existence alone does not depend on anything. In fact, the existence of everything in this universe depends on this Atma. which is of the nature of pure existence. Every anatma is mithya. It has dependent reality. Atma alone has absolute, non-changing, permanent, and independent reality. And that is why Atma alone is Satyam, absolute reality. Paramarthik Satyam. So whenever we see any object in this creation, there is something inherent in that object. See, we suppose there is a red chair. Okay. So, okay, the red chair has redness. There is a white chair. Now, white chair has whiteness, but it does not have redness. Same way you take any other object. Okay. A brown table. It has brownness. A strong boy. Okay. The boy has strength. So everything has these kind of attributes, but there is one thing common to everything in the creation, and that is isness, existence. The red chair also has existence. The red chair also has isness. The white chair also has isness. The brown table, the strong boy, everything in this creation has isness. Okay, and we identify कि हाँ red color का chair है, white color का chair है, but what we generally ignore is that isness. Okay, so along with the chair, that isness is also there, which we always tend to take for granted, like what we had seen in the light principle. Remember, light is there on my hand, but we never say that there is light. We take it for granted. Whenever we are watching a movie, what happens? So in anything, so when we are watching the movie, we are actually seeing two things. We are seeing the projections also, and we are seeing the screen also, right? But do we ever in the entire movie, do we even register the screen? No, it is the substratum. Because of that screen only the movie or the projections are existing. Like things are happening, things are looking real to us because of that screen. But we always tend to miss on that screen. The same way, in this entire world also, we are constantly experiencing that isness. We are constantly experiencing this existence along with the anatma, in the form of this sat, this existence. But we always do that, this double experience. We just take it as a single experience, and we are just focused on the anatma experiences. We are just focused on the red chair, on the white chair, on the brown table, on whatever, on these things. But we forget that existence. Oh, there is existence to the white chair. There is existence to the red chair. So we actually have the experience of Atma all the time in the form of isness that we are experiencing, in the form of existence. The table is, the chair is, the tree is, the body is, my thoughts are, my thoughts exist, my pain exists. So everything borrows existence from this pure existence principle, which is Atma. But just as we lose sight of the screen while watching the movie, same way we lose sight of this existence principle. We just take it for granted. That existence principle, that existence, that pure existence is Sat. And we are experiencing Sat everywhere, all the time. But we get so preoccupied with the anartma, with the asat vastus, with the mithya vastus all the time, with these changing objects, that we lose sight of the constant which is there underneath all the time, existence. So that is what we have to start practicing. Okay, we have to start practicing looking at all the objects as a mixture of two things. One is Namarupa. Namarupa. Nam is, say, chair. Rupa is form. The shape of the chair, the shape of the pot. So the Nama Rupa is one aspect and the existence is the other aspect. So everything in the universe, we should develop this practice of looking at them as two things, as a double experience, as a mixture of the Nama Rupa, which is Mithya, plus the isness, which is existence. That alone is Satyam. So everything in this universe is Mithya plus Satyam. It is a double experience, mixed experience. Okay. This is Sat principle, the Sat Swarupa of Atma, the Sat aspect of the nature of Atma. So now I hope that we've clearly understood the pure consciousness aspect of Atma. And with this, we understand the Sat Swarupa or pure existence aspect of Atma. Please ask if there are any doubts up to this point.
So, Atma is, so there is one Atma which is across all time, all forms.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is just one all-pervading principle. Okay, we can't say it is one thing, because again, when you say thing, then you are objectifying it, right? So we have to use some word, no? So we say that it's an entity or a principle. Okay, so it's underlying in and through everything in this universe. And just say, okay, suppose instead of the Atma, we say there is fire everywhere. Okay, so if fire is there everywhere, anything that is there on that is placed on the fire, what will it borrow from the fire? It will borrow heat from the fire, right? Because heat is the inherent nature of fire, right? Now we again put Atma, the adhishthanam, the substratum of the whole universe as Atma. Now, we have already seen two aspects of the nature of Atma. First is consciousness. Second is existence. So, ab Atma existence hai. The nature of Atma is existence. So, everything that is projected on the Atma will borrow existence from it. Just say everything we said, it borrowed heat from the fire. So, because existence, pure existence is the nature of Atma, all the Anatma is borrowing that from the substratum. Okay, and consciousness is also the nature of Atma. But are all the Anatma things borrowing consciousness from the Atma? No, not all things borrow consciousness, but only those things which have the capacity to reflect, which have the medium to reflect that consciousness. Okay, only those Anatma objects which have the mind, which can borrow and reflect this consciousness, they can reflect the consciousness, right? Therefore, they seem sentient to us. Okay, so these two are the nature of Atma. Sat and consciousness. Clear, Pankaj?
Yes.
Okay. So now let us go to the third aspect of the nature of Atma. So we say Atma is Sat, Chit and Ananda Swarupa. So Sat and Chit we have seen. Now we have to look at the Ananda Swarupa of the Atma. Okay. So Chit or Chaitanyam, Sat or Satyam, and now we are looking at Ananda or Ananta Swarupa. Ananta means infinite. Okay, limitless. So now the first question that would come to our mind is, how come we are using Ananda and Ananta almost as synonyms, right? So we said Chit is Chaitanya, it's consciousness. Yes, those two are same. Sat and Satyam, yes, they are same. But Ananda and Ananta. So we in our limited knowledge, we feel that, oh, Ananda and Ananta, they seem different. They don't seem like we can use them synonymously, right? So let us look at what Chandogya Upanishad says for that. So Chandogya Upanishad says that happiness is only possible in a complete and limitless entity. It is happiness is only possible in a complete and limitless entity in the infinite, in the Ananta. So no finite object. Finite object means no object which is limited, which is simit, maryadit. Okay, no finite object in this creation can have happiness or Ananda as its intrinsic nature. Because any finite object, however big that is, okay, any finite object in the creation, it lacks something or the other, right? Infinite alone can have purnatvam. That alone, that which is infinite alone can have purnatvam. And purnatvam alone can have Ananda as its intrinsic nature. So no finite entity in this creation can have Anandam as its intrinsic nature. Okay, this is what the Chandogya Upanishad says. So you have to understand that no finite object in this universe can have happiness or Ananda as its intrinsic nature. Otherwise, kya hota? Otherwise, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Adani, Ambani, they would be completely happy, right? If lots of things are giving happiness, then these people would be completely happy. But what do? Are they relaxed? Are they happy? Are they content? No, they still want more and more and more even after having so much. Because even if they have so much, okay, whatever they have, it might be seemingly inexhaustible. What they have, it might seem like infinite only. It might seem like limitless only to us. But nonetheless, it is all finite only. However big or inexhaustible it might seem, they are still finite things, right? They are still limited. And whenever there is a finite thing, there is always something or the other lacking. So even if we go and ask these people, they can even list down that, oh, I lack this, I lack this, I lack this. So whenever there is something which is not infinite, there is definitely a lack, right? So true happiness or Ananda can be inherent only in the infinite. And that is why we say Atma, which is all pervading, which is infinite, which is Anantam, which is limitless, right? Atma is Anantam, all pervading, hence it is limitless. That Atma alone can be Ananda Swarupa, because that Atma alone is Purna. That Atma alone can have happiness as its intrinsic nature. Now, naturally, we have this question, no, that if Atma is the nature of this Ananta Atma, so if this Ananda, this happiness belongs only to this Ananta Atma, and if all the finite objects in this world do not have happiness at all, then how come we get joy from various objects? Right? That is our experience all the time. We keep getting joy from objects. When I eat something tasty, I feel happy. When I buy a new phone, maybe I feel happy. When I listen to some nice music, I seem to feel happy. When I look at some beautiful scenery, or when my loved one comes close to me, I feel happy. So I seem to get happiness from people, from things, from situations, right? So Veda says that objects and things and situations and people and all the things that you can list down, they have happiness and they give us happiness. That is a big, big misconception. The thing that all the things and beings and relationships and situations are giving me happiness, that is the biggest misconception that we have. If any object has got happiness as its inherent nature, then that happiness should be experienced by everybody uniformly. That is the first point, okay, of argument. That agar kisi cheez mein happiness is its inherent nature, then uniformly everybody should be able to feel that happiness. See, for example, if music has got happiness in it, then everybody who listens to music should feel happy, no? Like we took the example of fire. Heat is the intrinsic nature of fire. Whoever touches the fire, be it the President of America or a beggar on the streets, anybody who touches fire will feel the heat, right? Because heat is the intrinsic nature of fire. Everyone uniformly feels that heat because heat is in the fire. Similarly, if happiness was the intrinsic nature of music, if happiness is in the music, then anybody who listens to music must be happy, no? But is it like that? Does music bring happiness to everyone? At home, our teenagers, they have their own noisy music. They find happiness in that. But the parent might get so much happiness out of listening to some soft music, instrumental or some ghazals or something like that. But both can't stand each other's music. So the very same music which gives happiness to the teenagers does not give happiness to their parents, and vice versa. So from this, it is clear that joy is not in the music or food or gadgets or any other object or experience or situation or person. Because if any object or person or experience has got happiness as its nature, then it should give happiness to everyone equally, uniformly, like the fire gives heat to everyone uniformly. Right? So, first point to ye hai ki, okay, with this one point we understand that happiness is not the intrinsic nature of things and objects and beings. Another point we can take is that if objects or beings, they have happiness in them, okay, if happiness is their inherent nature, then they should give happiness forever, okay. तुम फायर को आज टच करते हो तो भी हीट ही आएगा, कल टच करोगे तो भी हीट ही आएगा. So whenever you touch it, it gives us heat, right? So if happiness was the intrinsic nature of objects, then they should give us happiness forever. Now, having chocolates gives me immense happiness, okay? But if that happiness was in the chocolate, then even the 50th chocolate should give me as much Ananda as the first one. But usually what happens, by the time we reach the 50th chocolate, the same chocolate which gave us happiness some time back, now that chocolate gives us nausea. Same thing happens in case of people also. So when a couple newly falls in love with each other, they just can't stay without each other. They want to spend all the time together. But after a few years, what happens? The same person without whom you could not stay happy even for a minute, that same person starts to get so annoying. So if happiness is the intrinsic nature of chocolate or that person, so of something or some being, then it should give happiness to everyone and forever. So Veda says that nothing in the creation has got happiness as its ingredient, as its inherent nature. So then, how do I experience happiness? I sure do experience happiness when I get something I like, right? Even though it is momentary, even though it is for a short time, I do experience happiness, right? So if happiness is not there only in anything, then how do I experience it? So let us understand that. Okay, I know it's time, but I want to stretch for 10 more minutes because I want to complete this topic. It will be better if we finish it in continuation. So just 10 more minutes, okay? Yeah.
Okay,
So
no problem.
do you remember? Thank you, Molly. So do you remember that example of the sun and its reflection in the tubs? Do you remember this slide? So we are going to use the same slide, the same example. So first we had taken that example to understand consciousness, the Chit aspect of Atma. Now we'll use the same example to understand the Ananda aspect of Atma. So let us take the sun to be the original Ananda, okay, which is Atma. Original Ananda, which is Atma. The mind, which is the surface of the water in the tub, that mind is the reflecting medium. The reflection of the sun in the tub, that is the reflected Ananda. Remember, original consciousness, reflecting medium, and reflected consciousness. Now we just have to look at it as original Ananda. The reflecting medium is again the mind only, and the reflected consciousness, now for this example, we are taking it as reflected Ananda. Okay. So the reflection of the sun in the tub is the reflected Ananda. It is the Ananda which is experienced in our minds. It is the reflection of the original Ananda which is seen in the mind, which we experience in our mind in the form of happiness, which we experience. Okay. Now the question is, when will this reflection of the sun be really, really clear, as good as the original sun? When will this reflection be as clear as the original sun? So the yeah.
When it reflects the whole.
Yeah, but when can it reflect absolutely as it is? There are two conditions for it. Firstly, when the water is without any ripples or without any turbulence, when the water is absolutely still, right? That is the first condition. And secondly, when the water is absolutely clear, pure, means free from any impurities or kachra or anything. So if there are impurities, if there is disturbance, turbulence in the water, then the reflection will be muddled, right? But if the water is absolutely still and it is absolutely pure, then the reflection also will be absolutely clear, right? And what does this water represent? The water represents the mind, the reflecting medium. And when will the mind reflect this Atma Ananda clearly? When this reflecting medium is without any turbulence, without any disturbance, without any impurities. At that time, this Atmananda, the Ananda, which is the nature of Atma, it will be reflected as clearly as the original, as the infinite Ananda. Okay? So Veda says that whenever I experience something which conforms to my expectation, okay, whenever I experience something that I like, something that I really, which is really favorable, my favorite food, my favorite music, my favorite scenery, anything like that, or my favorite person, anything like that, whenever I experience that, then what happens? My mind becomes quiet. My mind resolves. So for a very short duration, for a very short window of time, the mind becomes so calm that it as though disappears. Like what it is in deep sleep avastha. In sushupti avastha, how the mind resolves. Here also, whenever we experience something that we like, the mind as though resolves. All the shadvairis disappear. So shadvairis are what? Impurities. They disappear. Then all the turbulences in the form of raga, dvesha, ye bhi karna baki hai, all the external mind, wandering off of the mind, that also stops for that short period. Mind is steady for that short period whenever I experience something nice. And when the mind becomes so calm that it as though disappears, at that time, what happens? This quiet mind, which is, it reflects Ananda as clearly as Atmananda. So depending on how calm your mind is, how pure your mind is, how clear this reflecting medium is, you will reflect that kind of Atmananda. Are you understanding? It is a reflection of the Ananda which belongs to the Atma. And the quality of happiness, the gradation of happiness that we keep, Priya, Moda, Pramoda, we have spoken about it. That gradation of happiness is felt because that depends on the mind, on the how clear the mirror is. That clearly we will be able to see the reflection, right? So this Ananda which we experience, it is the reflected Ananda. It is the Ananda borrowed from the Atma. This is the Ananda Swarupa Atma. It is nothing but my true self, my true nature. So the objects of this world, they can't do anything, but they just create a conducive condition for my own Ananda to manifest, to reflect. It means it is my own Atmananda only, which is just reflecting as Vishayananda. Vishayananda means Ananda which is got from the Vishayas. Vishayas means objects. Any Ananda which I get from sense objects, it is actually just Atmananda manifesting itself in the form of that Vishayananda. So we generally give this following example. So we all know that dogs love to chew on bones, right? But the bone itself is actually, it is absolutely dry and tasteless, okay? It has no taste, no moisture, no blood, nothing in it. It is absolutely dry and tasteless. Now what happens? The dogs just love bones, no? They do anything to just get a bone. So what happens when the dog bites this dry bone, no? The dog, its own tongue gets cut, or the insides of the dog's mouth, they get cut, and the mouth of the dog starts to bleed. Now what happens? The dog can taste that blood, and the dogs, they love the taste of blood. So the dog can taste blood, and now the dog is feeling happy. So before biting the bone, there was no blood, no taste, no happiness for the dog. But after biting the bone, there is blood. He can taste the blood and he feels happy tasting the blood. So now the dog logically reaches a conclusion that the bone is the source of that tasty blood, which is giving him Ananda. The dog thinks that the bone is the source of the blood and runs after that bone to enjoy the blood, runs after the bone to get happiness. But we know the truth, है ना? क्योंकि हम तो होशियार है ना, हम dog से तो होशियार है ना, so we know the truth. So we say that, oh, poor dog, the poor dog is so unintelligent. Poor dog, the bone does not even produce a drop of blood. There is not an iota of happiness or blood or taste in the bone. The bone has only served as a means for releasing the dog's own blood. And the bone has only been a medium to manifest the experience of happiness, which actually came from the dog itself. Similarly, Vedanta says that the whole universe, all the objects in the universe, all the relationships, all the achievements, all the possessions, they are just like the dry bone. Okay, it's a very, very important example. If you will remember it, you will be able to relate to all the things so much better. So everything in this universe is just like a dry bone, just as dry as a bone. The objects in the universe do not even have a drop of Ananda in them. But when I come in contact with certain objects of my liking, then what happens? My mind becomes calm. My mind becomes pure. The impurities disappear for the time being. They as though disappear. I am no more angry, no more kama, no more krodha, no more jealousy for the time being, because the mind is resolved. I have that. When I come in contact with the object of my liking, the mind becomes resolved. The mind doesn't wander out anywhere. So this resolved mind, it is that is when it is reflecting the Ananda, which is my own Ananda. So if my mind is always in that state, I am always reflecting that Ananda. I am always in that state of Ananda if my mind is in that resolved state, right? If it is free from turbulence and impurities, if the mind is calm, I am always in that state of Ananda. My Atmananda is reflecting as the experienced Ananda. Because I am Ananda Swarupa. It is my Ananda which is being reflected outside. So Pujya Swamiji, Dayanand Swamiji, he used to say that Vishayanande Atmananda. That means in Vishayananda. So the happiness that I get from sense objects, from any objects, that happiness is actually Atmananda only. So Vishayanande Atmananda. Vidyanande also Atmananda only. The happiness that I get through knowledge, that is also Atmananda only. Ice cream Anande, Atmananda. Biryani Anande, Atmananda. Meditation Anande, Atmananda only. So any happiness that you enjoy is nothing but Atmananda only. So it is not that Jnanis have a separate Atmananda, okay? And Ajnanis do not have Atmananda. It's the same Atmananda. The difference is that, the difference between Jnani and Ajnani is that whenever Ananda is experienced, an Ajnani or the ignorant person feels that I am experiencing Vishayananda. Means I am getting experience from the object. I am getting happiness from the object. I am getting happiness from the car, from the phone, from the food, from the music. The Ajnani, the ignorant person, feels that I am experiencing Vishayananda. Whereas the wise person, the Jnani, whenever the wise person experiences any Ananda, he knows that I am actually experiencing Atmananda only. The Vishayas, the objects, they have created a conducive condition for the Atmananda to reflect. They have created a conducive environment for the Atmananda to manifest. And even when this experiential joy goes away, when this experiential happiness goes away, a wise person does not conclude that happiness is over, happiness is gone. A wise person knows that this happiness is my nature, it cannot go away. It is not exhaustible, it is ananta, it is limitless. He just concludes that the conducive condition for the manifestation of that Atma, for that Ananda is over. Ananda is not over. The conducive condition is over. So what happens? The reflecting medium is disturbed. The reflecting medium is full of impurities. मतलब mirror के ऊपर पूरा dust आ गया है. तो reflection कैसे दिखेगा? So the conducive conducive conditions are over. The Ananda is still there only. So unhappiness is nothing but unmanifest happiness. Therefore, happiness is always there as my true nature, as my very nature. It is sometimes experienced, sometimes expressed, sometimes unexpressed, sometimes manifest, sometimes unmanifest. Just as the blood is there within the dog. It sometimes comes out, sometimes it doesn't come out, but blood is there inside, right? So this is the Ananda aspect of Atma. So understanding this Ananda aspect, it really gives me a lot of Ananda, and I hope it at least helps all of us to know how to experience this Atmananda as a reflection, obviously, in the form of Vishayananda. But every time we experience Ananda or we experience unhappiness, we should now be more aware of what it is, how this Ananda is manifesting, how we are experiencing this happiness. Okay? Very, very long class. Any questions? We'll end. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, everyone. And please, if there are any doubts on this topic, please connect and ask. Thank you.
Thank you.